Reports now indicate that authorities are examining Hayden Panettiere's sudden death to determine whether any criminal activity was involved, while the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration, has also joined the investigation. So what could the DEA's involvement actually reveal about what happened to the actress?
Very small room, and she physically put me in the bed next to this undressed man who was very famous and had his hands like this. When something so horrific, so deep, catastrophic happens in your life, there's not much that can really rock you.
Just days after Hayden Panettiere spoke about being pressured into personal encounters with powerful Hollywood predators when she was barely 18, she suddenly died. Authorities have not disclosed her cause of death. Yet despite keeping the details private, TMZ is already pushing the idea that Hayden died from an overdose. This is often the explanation used for mysterious celebrity deaths when Hollywood figures may have been involved, and it now seems they're using the same narrative around Hayden. Adding to the concern, her boyfriend Brian Hickerson, who has previously been accused of violently assaulting her on multiple occasions, was reportedly among the last people seen with her before her sudden death. He is also reportedly being investigated over whether he may have played any part in her death. We have also learned that, according to reports, Hayden Panettiere's on and off boyfriend Brian Hickerson and his brother Zach were reportedly at the apartment and were the ones who called 911. CNN says a police report states that an officer spoke with the brothers, noting, quote, "I spoke with Zach Hickerson first." He reportedly told police that Hayden was his brother's girlfriend. CNN also reports that Brian Hickerson allegedly showed officers a bag containing medications inside the apartment, according to the police report. TMZ has additionally reported that sources claim Narcan, a medication used to treat opioid overdoses, was found at the apartment. Now, it is important to look at Brian Hickerson's history with Hayden Panettiere. The actress had accused him of domestic abuse, including allegations discussed in her memoir just months earlier. The New York Times reported that in March, only months before Hayden's death, she had reportedly hired security to keep Hickerson away. Court records reportedly show that he was sentenced to 45 days in jail after pleading no contest to 2 felony domestic violence charges involving Panettiere. In her memoir, Panettiere wrote that the abuse she experienced felt less painful than the fear of being alone. Hickerson later addressed the memoir publicly and apologized, acknowledging that the allegations were true and saying he had been in a dark period involving substance-related problems, describing his actions toward her as a terrible thing he had done. Hayden Panettiere's estranged mother, Leslie Vogel, has also spoken publicly. She told NBC, in part, that a person the family had been trying to remove from Hayden's life for some time was with her, referring to Brian Hickerson. Back in May, Hickerson reportedly called Vogel one of the worst people he had ever met. There have also been reports concerning the difficult relationship between Hayden and her mother, but going back to August 2022, court records show Hickerson was sentenced to several years of probation after violating the terms of his probation. He was also ordered to complete a year-long domestic violence treatment program, attend Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, and participate in numerous anger management sessions. Reports also said he attempted to have his felony convictions reduced to misdemeanors, but the effort was unsuccessful. Court records indicate he made another attempt as recently as last week, which was also unsuccessful. The Hollywood Reporter reportedly spoke with Mia Terrazas, who said she had been Hayden's neighbor in West Hollywood. She claimed she called 911 at least 6 times because of disturbances and said she had witnessed what she believed were signs of domestic violence involving Hickerson. She told the outlet, quote, "I saw her leaving on a gurney." She said Brian was beside Hayden, and that when she asked whether Hayden was okay, it appeared to her that Hayden had suffered some kind of trauma consistent with a beating. She also said Hayden appeared frightened. Then there is another development. According to Page 6, police recently went to Hickerson's grandmother's home in Greenville, South Carolina, reportedly to conduct a welfare check. The outlet said Zach was at the house. This reportedly happened days after Hayden Panettiere's death. But at this point, there is no confirmation that the visit was connected to her death or to the ongoing investigation. For now, That connection remains unclear, but is another detail worth noting.
According to reports, police and EMS arrived at 1:51 p.m. after receiving a call about an unresponsive woman who was later identified as Hayden Panettiere. She received medical attention, but despite efforts to save her, she was pronounced dead at the scene. At this time, officials have not released her cause of death or even the details of the emergency call. The Greenville Police Department says the matter is still under investigation, which is why they cannot provide more information about what caused Hayden's death. Yet despite that, some people were already pointing toward her past drug use as the explanation. If you know anything about how celebrity deaths have sometimes been handled in Hollywood, you know the overdose explanation is often used to make a death appear accidental. That becomes especially easy to suggest when the person had a known history of addiction, which Hayden unfortunately did. Hayden publicly discussed her addiction in 2022, explaining that she had struggled with opioid and alcohol addiction for years. She said her first exposure to narcotics came when she was only 15 and working as a young actress. According to her account, someone on her professional team gave her what she was told were happy pills before red carpet events, supposedly to help her appear more energetic and cheerful during interviews. At the time, she said she did not understand that taking them was wrong or where that decision could eventually lead. As she got older, her drug use became more serious, eventually developing into opioid addiction along with alcohol abuse. By her own description, drugs and alcohol eventually became things she felt she could barely live without.
Talk a lot about these men in Hollywood approaching you and being inappropriate. The interesting part of meeting Vlad at a time when yet again there was a moment, Hollywood party, young beautiful woman, and some person prowling.
Not just one person prowling. I realized over time that it was a very, very big.
After giving birth to her daughter, Kaya, in 2014, Hayden suffered severe postpartum depression. She later explained that she struggled to emotionally connect with her child and did not understand what was happening to her. She also said no one had warned her about postpartum depression or explained the signs she should have watched for. During that period, she became increasingly dependent on alcohol and drugs. Her addiction eventually affected nearly every part of her life, including her career and relationship with her daughter. In 2018, Kaya's father, Vladimir Klitschko, was granted full custody while Hayden focused on treatment and getting her life stable. Hayden later said losing custody was extremely painful, but she believed Kaya was safer and better off with her father while she continued battling addiction. She entered inpatient treatment in 2020 and spent roughly 8 months there. Then, just as she appeared to be getting her life back on track, she suffered another devastating loss when her brother, Hayden Panettiere, died only 3 weeks before the release of Scream 6. The loss reportedly had a major impact on her mental health, with some reports even claiming she may have relapsed afterward. But the bigger question is this: why would the industry allegedly turn on her and then use her addiction to explain away her death? The reason, according to this theory, is that shortly before Hayden died, she had begun revealing damaging information about several people, details they clearly would not want the public to hear. And she was not holding back. She was speaking openly and making serious claims about people she had previously kept quiet about.
By somebody that I had grown to trust and see as a protector and somebody who had my back, and to be walked down, down the stairs, and it was as like a surprise, presented as though it was like a surprise, and it was this very small room, and she physically put me in the bed next to this undressed man who was very famous and had his hands like this, like this was just an average day for him. This is something that happens all the time. And I waited for her to leave, and I mean that lion in me, that fire in me, that my hair stood on end, and I became ferocious. I was like, this is not happening. But I had nowhere to hide.
Only a few months ago, Hayden released her book, I Wasn't a Reckoning. Anyone who has read it or even heard a small part of what she revealed can understand why the claims would attract major attention. Hayden discussed experiences she said she had endured in Hollywood and made serious allegations that could be damaging to powerful people. Before the book came out, she gave an interview with podcaster Jay Shetty, where she described an experience she said happened when she was barely 18. According to Hayden, a Hollywood agent she trusted and viewed as someone who was supposed to protect her took her onto a boat and brought her to a room. She said an older man was lying naked on the bed, apparently expecting her to undress and engage in sexual activity with him. Hayden claimed the man was someone widely known and suggested that his calm behavior made it seem like this was not an unusual situation for him. In her account, she described the experience as something that appeared completely routine to the man involved.
This is something that happens all the time. And I waited for her to leave, and I mean, that lion in me, that fire in me, my hair stood on end, and I became ferocious. I was like, this is not happening. But I had nowhere to hide, and I bolted, and I hid wherever I could think of to hide on a boat. There was no jumping off and swimming away, and there was nobody who was going to, I realized that there was nobody who was going to be empathetic to my situation, that this was nothing new to them.
As you can imagine, many people became curious about who this person could have been. They began looking into Hayden's past and found old paparazzi photos from around 2007 showing her spending time on boats with a group of friends. One of the people reportedly connected to that group was former Real Housewives of Beverly Hills cast member Diana Jenkins. There had already been an old rumor claiming Diana was involved as a Hollywood madam, and that allegation resurfaced in 2022, leading Diana to take legal action against several people over the claims. When her name was mentioned again in connection with Hayden's story, Diana's representatives strongly denied any involvement. Her team told TMZ that Diana had previously dealt with false claims online and said this was another example of the same thing. They also made their position very clear, stating that Diana was not the person Hayden was referring to and warning that anyone claiming otherwise could face a lawsuit.
According to the authorities in South Carolina where she died, the Greenville PD and emergency personnel responded to a report of an unresponsive female at an apartment complex just before 2 p.m. yesterday. Just that term, unresponsive female. It's like she was responsive for 36 years. She responded to everything. She was given uppers. She said in her memoir, she wrote in her memoir that she was given amphetamines as a teenager before she went out on the red carpet. So she'd be peppy. Oh, got to dazzle everybody. Who gave her those? She did the person the courtesy of not outing them by name or title, but was it an agent? Was it somebody that the Hollywood machine put around her to make sure she'd be stellar? She wouldn't forget to sparkle while on the red carpet. She was a responsive female. They made damn sure of it until she couldn't do that anymore. They found Panettiere and administered emergency aid, but she was tragically pronounced dead at the scene. Doesn't seem like there was any saving her. A statement from the Greenville police said the initial findings had, quote, not indicated any signs of foul play or suspicious circumstances, but that the investigation is ongoing. Not sure what that means. No indication of suspicious circumstances. So what could that mean? Could it mean there were bottles of pills empty all around her? Would we consider that not suspicious because we can see what's on the outside of the bottle and we know what was ingested? Is it not suspicious because, there was some sort of a death by suicide that was obviously self-inflicted? I genuinely don't know. No one's using the word suicide.
Keep in mind, 2007 was also the year Heroes was becoming a major hit, while Hayden was dating her co-star Milo Ventimiglia and regularly appearing with celebrity friends, some of whom were reportedly believed to have been on the boat with her during the alleged incident. According to Hayden, none of the people aboard stepped in to help her, even though she was openly asking for assistance. There is now speculation that the people discussed in her book were angry about what she revealed and may have wanted to silence her permanently. The situation becomes even more concerning because, beyond the claims that her addiction could be used to explain her death, there has also been speculation surrounding her on and off boyfriend, Brian Hickerson. I am not going to defend him, because his past behavior has already created a serious reputation, and Hayden herself discussed their troubled relationship in detail shortly before her death. That makes his connection to the situation especially troubling. And there is another important detail. Hickerson reportedly traveled with Hayden on a flight from Los Angeles to South Carolina just one day before she died, making him one of the last people known to have seen her alive. Considering his history of physical abuse toward her, that fact naturally places him under serious suspicion, even though it does not prove that he had anything to do with her death.
You ever think about one day marrying her?
Yeah, of course.
Is it something that you think could still happen?
I hope so. I hope so. She probably doesn't think the same way, but it's
Do you think it's better for her to not be with you?
I think that Hayden is one of the most talented people I've ever met in my life, and I would be an idiot not to walk away from her and let her flourish in her career. So, we probably wouldn't be good together.
Their troubled relationship first became public in May 2019, when Brian Hickerson was arrested on felony domestic violence allegations involving Hayden, although the case was later dismissed in September 2019. He was arrested again on Valentine's Day after Hayden reportedly told police that he had assaulted her during an argument and struck her in the face. A few days later, after Hayden obtained a protection order against him, he faced an 8-count criminal complaint in California, with 7 of those charges reportedly being felonies. At the time, Hayden released a statement saying she wanted to tell the truth about what had happened to her in hopes that her experience could encourage other people in abusive relationships to seek the support and care they deserved. She also said she was willing to do her part to prevent him from hurting anyone else. Then, in April 2021, Brian pleaded no contest to 2 felony charges involving injuries to Hayden and received a 45-day jail sentence for years of probation, domestic violence programs, and a 5-year restraining order, keeping him away from her. Despite those legal consequences, the two eventually reunited. Hayden said their reconciliation depended on his continued efforts to change and heal, while also acknowledging that he deserved the consequences he had faced. Now, I want to hear what you think. Do you believe Hayden was silenced because of what she revealed in her memoir? And do you think Brian is being positioned as the person to blame? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to check out this other video for another detailed story.